I've never been so angry. We got some new batteries. We're gonna swap out this one and add those two up here, and it's gonna add to our bank down there. Got a bit of a rat's nest now because I've disconnected the top one, but we're gonna clean all this up and make it look pretty again. So in total, if we include this one, we should have, what was it, 520 amp hours in total. So we're gonna really, instead of having a starter bank or starter battery and a house bank, we're going to have two house banks. We're gonna have a house bank of AGM and a separate house bank of lead acid, controlled by our battery selector switch here. So we'll decide which house bank we want to run on. Both house banks are capable of starting our small 13 horsepower engine, so there's no worries about that. We just need a little more capacity, so we bought some cheap batteries to add to our banks. Well, we always knew that we potentially had an issue with line loss, voltage loss at our watt meter here, because it always read a little bit lower than what our charge controller reads, and our charge controller's fed with like I think it's 10 gauge wire. Anyway, a fairly beefy wire. We always noticed that we were getting lower voltage at the DC panel here. As a result of that, our fridge pump, or our fridge compressor, was turning on and off because of low voltage. We thought maybe we were having a problem with our fridge, but it's actually our power getting to our fridge. So really just testing the cable from the connection at the battery to where it connects to the motor, we were losing 0.2 volts. So you can imagine if you're losing 0.2 volts there, and then maybe a little more here and a little more there, it starts to add up. So we're going to swap out any of the bad wire and try to get rid of some of this line loss that we're having, and hopefully have a better running fridge and everything else. We have our lead acid battery here, and we just picked up some deionized water to top up our cells, our wet cells here. I noticed the other day after I disconnected the battery, it's fully charged, and I opened the cells and they were quite low, so we're gonna top them off right quick. This battery should be good to go again a little bit, or at least hold a little more of a voltage, because I noticed when I was trying to start the engine with this guy, it was struggling a little bit. It would still start it, but it would chug a little bit before. So let's see if this helps. There we go. I don't know if you can see into there at all, but it's down past the lead, which is not a good thing. But luckily this battery was free. Somebody here at the dock gave it to us because they weren't using it anymore. But I'd still like to take care of it, so let's fill this sucker back up. It was pretty low in water, that's for sure. We bought this, what's it called again? Battery hydrometer. And this hydrometer allows us to check the specific gravity of the battery, or each cell. And it gives us a more accurate idea of if our battery is good and actually going to hold the charge, or if it needs some attention, or maybe if one cell is bad, you can find out specifically by reading this. So if the float is in the green section, then it's supposedly good. The white is fair, and the red means it needs to be recharged, or you potentially, if you had just charged the battery, it means the battery is pretty much needs some attention. So just barely in the green, but at least we're in the green. Now I'm going to show you this battery, those were brand new batteries. Now this battery has been used quite a bit on somebody else's boat a little bit, and then when we got it given to us, we've used it mostly for starting and a little bit when our other batteries were running low. But I'd just like to show you how the specific gravity changes. So with this fluid, or this electrolyte, it goes all the way up into the red, and I mean the float isn't even floating whatsoever, so that tells me that, and I've already checked all the cells, they're all the same. So I think the electrolyte doesn't have, I mean I did fill it all up with water because it was quite low, but basically the electrolyte isn't doing the trick anymore. So I'm going to try to do an equalization, which is just adding more voltage. There's an equalization setting on my charger, so I'm going to try to equalize it, which should get rid of any sulfation. It's like a coating on the lead inside the battery, and that will hopefully bring back this battery a little more to life, because as it is now it can barely start the engine, and I mean it's no wonder why. It has no specific, very low specific gravity, and it's just not doing what it should be doing. So let's see if we can get it kick-started again and up and running. Been equalizing for a little over an hour now, so I'm checking our specific gravity again, and it looks like we're in the green zone actually after an hour. So I gotta get battery cables all measured out. I'm gonna cut them and throw on some lugs. Last ground wire to cut with the grinder, kind of exciting, and then I got a bunch of crimping to do. So we got all our lugs here and everything. One more cable to add. A bit of a match of lugs, but they're all gonna work. So I got all my cables and my lugs, and I'm just walking to shore because the little cable smasher to make the lugs crimp onto the cable doesn't seem to work so well on the dock. I mean, it crimps on, but I gotta smash it a lot harder than if I was on some cement. So let's find a good spot on the cement. Seems like I've found a rock that I can hold this against and have some pavement to push down on this well to make nicer crimps. And we are complete. They're a heck of a lot better than what I had before. We'll show you that now. So, as you can see, the wiring is still a little bit of a mess, but we've definitely had some improvements. I've added this DC block so we don't have so many connections on the batteries. And we also need to hook up these two new batteries to our system. But that's not what I wanted to show you, so let's take a look. So this is the mess that I wanted to show you. So as you can see, we have way too much wire. This yellow orange wire is connecting those two batteries. All of the wires are just way too long, and actually, as you can see here, there's some decent space between the lug and the wire, and inside the wire is quite a bit of corrosion. So we've got quite a bit of loss on our entire system, and that's what I'm hoping to improve. So let's get rid of this mess. Come on.
Come on.
Work. Whoa, what? How is this better? Come on now, like bring it back. Well, it's looking a little better. Be nice to see some heat shrink on those connectors though. Let's see. Sweet, that's looking a little better. Nice and shrink wrapped up. But we're missing two batteries, we need two more. Come on, let's see, one more time. Woo! Look at that! Thank God for movie magic. That would have taken me a lot longer to do if I had to do that for real. Two battery banks. We're all installed, much prettier than the mess of wires I had before, and a lot less voltage drop across our system. So we have bank 1 is our bottom bank down there, and bank 2 is our top bank. I will very rarely, if never put it in all because they are two separate banks. We have AGMs and lead acid, which isn't recommended. So I'm going to treat them as two separate banks and very rarely, if ever, use the all setting.
Today is our lucky day. Oh, there's something walking on the lens. Okay. We got fed breakfast by Bill and Bev behind. Awesome French toast, sausages, and bacon. And now we got some sandwiches from Colette at the other end of the dock. Lucky day. Feels good to be on G-string. G-dock.
They're good.
Doing a little bit of painting on the dock today. I'm writing the name of our boat on our life buoy and the dinghy so that if they disappear on us, we can actually find them. Or someone will know they're ours at least. That's kind of tricky painting on the dock. Everything moves. It's full-on construction zone on Wildly Intrepid, or on the dock I should say. I am revamping our galley, adding some shelving, and Corey is making something.
Yeah, so this is some composite I got from a place we were working over the summer. So I kept some just because I thought I'd do something like this. And I don't know how pretty it's going to be, but we'll see what we can do and how we can make it look nicer. What are you doing and how excited are you to be doing it?
I have been wanting to do this for way too long. I am building our shelf here just so that I can actually store things. Someone took it off because I've got a feeling there used to be one before, but they put a microwave instead, which is the first thing that actually went off the boat. We even had it in our bathroom for a little bit just in case we wanted to keep it, and then it went flying. So now I'm gonna be able to store my stuff. So exciting.
And we decided to use plexiglass since we had some lying around. And it's a little scratched. It's been well used, but at least we can see what's on the other side. Because Alex is a little bit shorter than myself, so she'd have to kind of like get on her tippy toes to look inside to find whatever we were looking for.
That's
sweet.
Freaking solid. The boat's coming together. So exciting.
Should we have a drink to celebrate?
Yeah, you were supposed to get me a drink an hour ago.
I know, but I was preoccupied making a seat.
Yeah.
What are you up to?
I'm revamping our library so that the books actually stay on the bookshelf. So we good, because we used to have that ugly net. Doing more paperwork, woohoo! Well, we're trying to get some towing insurance with potentially sea tow, but we want to make sure we're covered in other areas than just the US. So, working on the computer, which I just revived this morning again. Survived going in the lake for a while, but now I think it's really dying.
Alright, so another project, another day. One of our last projects, hopefully before we get to leave, is we got to swap this motor mount out for this nice shiny new guy. It's like $150, so it better be shiny new. So yeah, this one, the rubber in between the steel here, or the cast material, whatever it's made from, is kind of not really doing its job anymore. So the goal here is going to be to take off the top nut on both sides of the front, and I'm going to hopefully see if I can lift the motor at all. I might have to remove the two back nuts on the top just to give myself a little bit of play, and if that doesn't work, I'll have to disconnect the coupling back there as well. But the idea hopefully is to loosen off this nut, get something, a 2x4 or something in there underneath, and lift it, or a jack, lift it just enough to get this piece of metal above this nut, take off these 2 leg bolts and slide it right out, and then just replace it with this guy. So let's see how it's gonna go. Hopefully it doesn't take me all day or multiple days. So I got all the motor mounts loosened. The back 2 were a big pain in the butt to get to, but I was able to actually access them. But this motor is a lot heavier than it looks, even though it's just a little 13 horsepower diesel, 2-cylinder. It's freaking really heavy. So I was able to borrow this mini bottle jack that I'm hopefully going to be able to fit in underneath and put it on something solid under there and hopefully lift it up enough to get the new bracket or the new motor mount on. Wish me luck. Looks like this little bottle jack is gonna do the trick because it actually lifts the motor a little bit. Look at it, it's moving. It's moving. Okay, now we gotta go check the coupling at the back. I wanna make sure I'm not putting too much of a bend on anything. So if you wanna go out back and while I'm jacking it to get it above this nut, we'll make sure that it's not kinking the shaft or anything like that. See, maybe another 1/2 inch or something. 1/4 inch, something like that. So I was just speaking with our friend Graham, who's a wonderful wealth of knowledge when it comes to diesel engines and stuff like that. And originally I was going to lift, you're going to want to come down here because you can't. Originally I wanted to lift the motor so it was above this bolt so I could swap out this motor mount. But after speaking with Graham, I think the easier way to do it will be to just lift it up enough to take the weight off of this mount, and then I can undo these 2 bolts at the L bracket here, and that will make it so I don't actually have to lift the engine so high. I don't have to disconnect the coupling in the back, and I don't have to mess with any of that. So I'll just remove these 2 bolts. This should be able to just pop right off, and then I can remove this, put in the new one, connect the bolts, and we should be good, hopefully. It's a pretty tight little spot here. I'm just seeing if this top bolt is going to have enough clearance to loosen right off, and then I might have to move this water pump out of the way to access the bottom one, but that's not a big deal. Getting close. Come on, baby. I don't think it's gonna come out. Woo! They come out. They're stubby bolts, thankfully. I wasn't sure if that was gonna work, but I got one out, so I should be able to get the other one out, and this is gonna make my life a ton easier. I'm so stoked. Thank you, Graham. You rock, man. Looks like I forgot that we are on a boat, because, you know, when you're working on a boat in tight quarters and stuff, the first, second, and third way you decide to try to do something won't work. So this is the second or third, depending on how you want to think about it. But I got the bolts loosened on this bracket, but the bottom bolt down there won't come out because there's not enough space between the bolt and this plate. So I can't take the plate off completely like I was planning, or the little L bracket that supports the motor. So I'm gonna see, now that I got it a little looser, I'm gonna see if I can back off these 2 leg bolts that hold the motor mount, then see if I can kind of wiggle it out, maybe jack it up a little bit more and get it out, because my initial plan isn't working. And we're free! Woo! We got the motor mount off. Our motor mounts are slightly different. They're very similar in size at the base and in the height, but our bolts are a lot longer. So I'm hoping I'm gonna be able to actually squeeze this on, because this guy barely came off. So fingers crossed this will actually go on. Now I just want to make sure my height is about the same between my nuts, my 2 bolts, so I have the same alignment for my engine. So I'm just using my little caliper here to get a rough idea. So let's keep turning a couple more notches. There we go, that's pretty darn close. I'm happy with that.
Woohoo!
I needed 2 hands to do it, but I got her on. Now I just need to bolt it back together, and we have a new, brand spanking new motor mount. Just bolting on the new motor mount, and we'll be ready to run our motor again and not have to worry about it jiggling out these leg bolts that hold the motor down, because the rubber inside our old mount was pretty degraded. This rubber is brand new, and it's hopefully going to absorb more of the vibration than before. It's the moment of truth. Let's cross our fingers, start the engine, and see if when we put it in gear, if everything looks like it's in line and we're not getting as much wobble as we were before. Let's hope.
And we've got a mess in the cockpit. Everything came out from there.
So I think we solved the problem a little bit. There's still a little shudder. I definitely think we should replace them all eventually, but we've solved some of our problem. It's definitely absorbing some of it. So I think that's what the main issue is. I'm just hoping that I didn't bend the shaft at all. I didn't lift it very much, so I don't think I did. But that's my only slight concern with doing this sort of stuff. I've never been so angry at a manufacturer. There's that much more broken down into my motor mount now. Thanks to the manufacturers of these bolts.
We got a bit of a big problem. We're really not able to remove the screw that broke into the motor mount. So the leg bolt it's kind of stuck there for now, so I'm trying to figure out other ways of removing it. And poor Corey, I feel so bad for him. It's just, there's days in boating that everything goes really smooth, everything's awesome, but today's not one of those days. It's just stuff does not want to work. So we're gonna try to remove that leg bolt somehow. Corey is gonna for a bit of a walk. I think he might be talking with a friend of ours, trying to figure out different ideas, because our little tool remover is just not quite deep enough to go into the hole.
You gotta really love how this happens after I fix everything, tie it all up, and now everything's in the way that I've already fixed and made nice. So I'm gonna have to undo everything, potentially undo the alternator. Just so much work for this one stupid bolt. I'm incredibly, incredibly frustrated. I don't think I've ever been this frustrated about something that's gone wrong on this boat. My plan was to drill it out, but I can't even get the damn drill in there without taking off the whole alternator. So we're gonna try to drill another hole. Not super stoked at all. Today is not my day. But let's see if we can actually get a leg bolt back into this. So what seems like a small light at the end of the tunnel, or a small plus out of the struggle that we're going through right now, is that it looks like our stringers are not rotten. This is all quite dry, so that's good. At least we have some nice wood down in the stringers. So now I just got to ream out that hole a little bigger. Hopefully I don't have to undo too much, and we can get in another bolt there. Alright, we're going to put these stainless back in. They go into the stringer about an inch. We did have 6-inch leg bolts, but they're galvanized, and I'm never using galvanized again since it snapped on me. So back to stainless. We'll try to get some longer stainless at a later date, but for now this one's going to be a fresh hole, so I won't need to put epoxy in it, and the other 3 holes I'll just make sure to put epoxy in all of them and put the original leg bolts in.